Hey friends, Nick Norton here, and welcome to the next video in my series on how to use Pro Tools. And today's video is an important one. It's about actually recording audio into the software. Up until now, we've been using audio that we imported from somewhere else to look at mixing and plugins and signal flow and stuff. And maybe that's all you need if you're just creating electronic music or remixing stuff. But if you're a producer, it's generally good to be able to record music. Whether that is your own vocal over an instrumental, or recording a band, or getting keyboard sounds directly in, or turntables or something like that. So that is what we are looking at today. Part 1 is the basics of actually recording, and Part 2, these are actually both going to be in this same video, is on how to edit multiple takes together. If you want to use the first half of one take and the second half of another take. So let's get right into it. Before we get into Pro Tools, you need, and in case of vocal recording, a microphone and an interface to plug that microphone into. Now, in a USB mic, the interface is built into the mic. But for most cases, an interface is a box that has some input jacks on it that you plug your instruments into, and that turns the sound that's coming in into ones and zeros for your computer to work with. And then it also has some outputs to plug your speakers into that turn the ones and zeros back into sound. My interface appears to be closed right now. Let's open her up. Has control software, and a lot of interfaces do. This is what the Universal Audio Console looks like if you have a UA interface. And what we've got that pretty much all interfaces are going to have somewhere is what is called a gain control. Gain is the change in amplitude of the signal going in. And microphones, especially if they're not condensers, tend to be pretty quiet, so you often have to turn up the gain to get a nice clear signal. And what you want to see is your meters on your interface or in your interface control software averaging somewhere, honestly, around the middle. My mic's a little hot because I think this mic sounds good that way, and I've got a compressor after it anyway. But between -10 and -20 is a good bet for the averages. Maybe the peaks can come up to -8. What you don't want is to turn the top red or to turn the light red on your interface. That's called clipping, and that means you are louder than your interface's converters can accurately turn into ones and zeros, so there's distortion. Distortion. Sorry. Distortion's cool when we add it like as an effect, but when we're recording, we want to be completely clean so that we can work with whatever it is that we recorded. Similarly, if it's too low, then whatever you're recording won't be too much louder than the noise floor, the room sound, or your equipment's inherent noise. So when you turn it up, it'll be noisy and bad. So yeah, how to set up your interface's gain, you should check your interface's manual or the manufacturer's website or YouTube channel for. That is step 1. Plug the mic into the interface, set the gain. Now, how do we get sound from the interface into Pro Tools? We have our input and output selectors here, and generally you can just click on the input selector and find the channel on the interface that the mic is plugged into and pick it. If you don't see that, I'm just going to create another track real quick here. Command-Shift-N. Mono is fine. Let's name it Test Talk. What you can do is if you come up here to Setup and go to I/O, which stands for Inputs and Outputs, then you can see all of your interfaces inputs across the top here, and you can assign them to paths in Pro Tools. So I don't have anything plugged into interface 3, input 3, so I've deleted that path. But let's say I wanted to create one, I would just click New Path, and I would call this empty because there's nothing on it. And then we check the box under 3, And now anything that's plugged into input 3 on my interface, I can select right here by going to interface, and I called it empty. I like giving permanent names to things because it makes it just much easier to grab whatever instrument I want. But if you, for instance, only have one input and you're constantly changing what instrument is plugged into it, maybe don't give it a permanent name like that. SM7B is the microphone that I use for these videos. So, now that we have sound coming into Pro Tools, well, do we? We're not sure. To check it, we want to monitor the input of the track. So the input is the mic that we picked here coming from the interface. We click this little eye and we can see signal. Pro Tools is hearing what is coming in the mic. That is cool. Something important and worth noting is that if your interface supports it, and most do these days, you want to come up to options here and check low latency monitoring. If you don't have that checked, let's turn it off, you will hear a delay. My voice might sound kind of weird right now. I'm not sure because I am monitoring in a weird way. But if we check that, it means the sound coming to your headphones, coming to your speakers, is going around Pro Tools. It's just coming straight from the interface, so there's no software latency. And you want that on when you're recording. You want it off when you're mixing, for the most part, so that you can use all your software. So now we've got some signal coming in. We want to arm the track, or record enable is what they call it in Pro Tools, by clicking on this little record button next to it. And when we do that, it monitors the input anyway, so you don't actually need this little I button except for testing or a couple special circumstances. And then to record, there are two ways to do it. One is to press this record button at the top in the transport bar, and that gets to blinking, and then when you hit play, it's going to start recording. So I'm just going to press space, and now we are recording. That's cool. Now we're still recording. Also cool. And we can go ahead and play it back. And now we are recording. That's cool. Now we're still recording. Also cool. And it worked. Pretty simple, right? One thing that you want to take note of just right now is that this audio file here has been named after the name of the track. So you really want to name your tracks before you start recording. And especially if you're recording a few tracks together, you don't want to change the name in the middle and have the numbers of the takes all change that it automatically assigns. So name your tracks, name your tracks. Also, don't forget to name your tracks. The other way to record, just the other shortcut for recording, I should say, is just the 3 key on your keyboard that is on the numpad, so over on the right of your keyboard. This is how most people do it. You just press 3 and we're rolling and recording, and press space to stop. Cool. That's actually it for the absolute basics of recording. So now let's talk about punching in, which is when you want to replace a little bit of a recording. The way we do that, there are a few ways to do that, actually. The kind of manual way to do it is to click where you want the recording to start, highlight where you want the new recording to end. So let's say we only wanted to record this. And then you turn on the pre-roll and post-roll. We haven't looked at that yet. What pre-roll is how long do you want the tape to roll, that's what it's called, before we start recording. So if I click this, you can also press Command K to check and uncheck those. We see these little flags appear here on either side of our selection on the timeline. And that means start playing here, start recording here, stop recording here, stop playing here. You can drag those. So if I wanted to hear this whole thing, I could drag it to here. And that's useful Because usually when you are recording punch-ins, you ask the musician to play along to what they were doing and then just keep playing, and then you put a fade on it and it lines up nicely in time. So if I hit record now, I'm going to hear this, and then it'll record here, and then we're going to hear this. And now we are recording. That's cool. I'm going to replace this with me talking more. Yeah, I should get some more musical examples. All right, but now we have this spot has been punched in. And now we are recording. That's cool. I'm going to replace this with me talking more. Also cool. Yeah, now we do want to pay attention to editing when we do this. If we want to get rid of that, we could always just undo, or we could take this original audio file and pull the end of it out. There's what was there before. We always want to add fades. So with the multi-tool, you just come down to the bottom here and click and drag, and it puts a little crossfade there to get rid of any pops. Let's say we didn't like that word. Let's put a crossfade here, and now it'll be nice and smooth. And now we are recording. That's cool. I'm going to replace this with recording. Also cool. Great. Fantastic. I am such a voice actor model kind of person. Notice that the pre-roll is still on. I'm just going to press Command-K to turn that off. The other way to punch in is what's referred to as quick punching. And that essentially means punch in real time. So if you right-click on your record button up here and select quick punch, put it into quick punch mode, and arm the track, then it can be playing, and you can just press the 3 key to start rolling the recording. And now I'm recording again. Well, now I'm not. I'm gonna replay. So that's great if you're just like, oh, just get that note, and you don't want to replay a whole section or something, and you're quick enough to grab it in real time. I don't actually use that very often. All right, so let's say we are now going to move on to how we edit a bunch of takes together to make a single performance, or a comp take, which is short for composite or compiling. I think composite is the official word for it. And I'm going to put this back into our normal record mode. Oops. Come on, buddy. There we go. Worth saying, if you don't see all this stuff at the top, make sure you have expanded transport selected there. Over on the right, that brings up your pre-roll and post-roll controls. I usually have that open. So let's unarm this track we were just messing with, and let's have a look over here. I've imported a bunch of takes and made a comp of this kind of vaguely Middle Eastern-ish sounding thing. We've got a mixed track here and some vocals here. Let's give that a quick listen. This, you can see just from the numbers, this 03 here means it was the 3rd time this track was recorded on, and this 04 here means it was the 4th time this track was recorded on. Now, how do we do that on the same track without losing track, excuse me, of everything? We use what are called playlists. Now, when we want to do a new take, what we can do is click this little drop down to the right of the name of the track. That is called Playlist Selector. And we just go to New, and it'll add a number to the end. And we click OK, and it all disappeared, but it didn't get deleted. It is just back on the previous playlist. So now we can record some more stuff onto here. I'm not going to demonstrate that because you saw how to record. And over time, after a few takes, you end up with a bunch of different performances of the material that you want to record. Whoever recorded this before me seems to have 5, 6, 7 takes. And you can scroll through these by holding Shift and pressing the up and down arrows. And the nice thing about using playlists is that all your settings will not change. So if you have different plugins over here and it's routed somewhere and the volume is set, you don't have to worry about losing any of that when you are switching between playlists. So that's very helpful. One way to grab from one playlist and move to another is to simply copy and paste. You could select this and press Command C, and then I'm going to shift on down to one of my new playlists and press Command V, and there it is. That's a little bit hard though, because you don't always know what you're getting. So the big trick here is that on the left where it says waveform, that's the track view selector, and we saw that we could look at volume automation with it last time. If we select playlists, it shows all of the playlists. That's cool, right? So what we want to do when we're comping is make our main playlist, the one on top, the one we are comping to. I'm going to create a new one for that so that we don't accidentally overwrite anything. Let's call this new Vox, delete the 08, demo comp. Cool. And you can see which one you're on by the name in the track name field. So now if we want to, say, use this bit of, well, first of all, we can listen to each take just by soloing them using these solo buttons on the left here or pressing Shift S. It's nice because unlike the track solo, it doesn't mute all the other tracks, it just mutes all the other takes. So you can still hear all the music and say, like, do I like this one? Or do I like this one? Do I like this one? Ooh, that seems a little hotter. Yeah, that's way nicer than this. Cool, so let's say I wanted to use this one. All I would do is select it and click this little up arrow right here. Boop. It pops up into the top. There's a shortcut for this I'm looking up. Control Option V. Yeah, so if I wanted this to go up top, I could go here and press Control Option V, and it pops it up to the top. And then maybe this section we want to use this take. You get the idea. And then when I play back the track, it's going to play whatever is in this main playlist here. And when I go back to the normal view, which is waveform, we don't have to deal with the 8 million takes. We just deal with what we actually want in the song. That's effectively how it works. There are just a couple small things to say about editing. First off, it's good to create a new playlist before you do stuff so that you don't lose a previous take. Here's my completed edit from earlier that I made before before recording this video. It is also worth noting that if you've got parts that are like get loud and quiet from different performances, you can actually even out the volume using what is called clip gain, which is this little tab on the bottom left. This is how this one started. And this sounded super loud to me, and I wanted this bit to be a little louder. So you can click on this little fader and pull it down, and what that does is changes the gain of the audio file without changing anything about all the processing after it and all the automation and all that. It is pre-everything gain. So that's a pretty useful tool. You can also, if you hold Option Shift and roll your mouse wheel, no, never mind. That's the waveform view. Is it Control Shift? Yeah, Control Shift mouse wheel is good for that, or Control Shift up and down arrows moves in increments of half a dB. So that's a good one. And then the only other real thing to say is to make sure that as you're making your edits, where's the demo comp? Here it is. Like, let's say I want yeah, this is how words work. Let's say I wanted to add a bit of this take up there. And I had this, and I did the thing, and then we listen back. There's gonna be a very terrible audible edit right here. Hear that? There's a click, the volume jumps. So we absolutely must go through and finesse all of the edits. So we pull that out a little bit, and we add a crossfade, and we didn't lose the D on the beginning of that word that I didn't realize was there previously, and it's nice and smooth. That's pretty much it for editing. One piece of advice: don't edit too much. If you're cutting on every beat, it's gonna lose the feeling that is, somewhat ineffable and built in by the performer, and when you have to fix it note by note by note by note, it just becomes robotic sounding and not very exciting. So it's great if you can just pick a take for a chorus and pick a take for a verse, and that's that. Try not to cut individual words unless it's absolutely necessary. And same thing with instrumental lines. Try not to cut individual notes unless they're flubbed. You get the idea. That is a bit of a taste and style thing. But things sound better when they're recorded, when it's a live performance that's being recorded. All right, I hope that is all helpful. Have a good one.